Professor Sood, as I understand it, 80% of the PBM market is controlled by three companies, three PBMs, that are vertically integrated. Is that right?
That is correct.
Does your research show that the prices that consumers pay are higher than they would be if those companies were not vertically integrated?
So my research on Medicare Part D,
Give me an answer.
partially.
What do you mean partially? They're either higher or they're lower. There's
So
no such thing as a partial price.
what I find is that Medicare Part D premiums are higher as a result of vertical integration.
Okay. Well, then why don't we, I'm all for transparency, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that. But why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex and outlaw vertical integration for Part D? Would you accept an amendment to your bill like that?
I don't want to answer that question right now because I want to study that.
Would you support that, Mr. Scott? Let me just guess what your answer is.
No, sir, and I can explain why.
No, you speak Sanskrit. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, you're good at it, and I know your job is to protect the PBMs. And I'm like Tillis, I don't think PBMs are the only ones at fault. But you don't have unclean hands. Professor Sood, you say PBMs ought to be fiduciaries. To whom?
To both the plan and their members.
Well, what if the plan and the members' interests diverge? Who are they fiduciaries to?
Ultimately, in principle, they should be fiduciaries to the members.
Okay.
So, for example, ERISA makes...
I get it.
Okay.
I get it. Mr. Chairman, again, why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex? Why don't we just amend your bill to require that PBMs have a fiduciary obligation to plan members?
Well, I think that's been suggested, and I think there's part of that in our legislation, but probably not fully enough to satisfy you.
Well,
So let me look at what want to add to it.
okay. I mean, I'm not criticizing your bill. I don't want my office to end up in Bethesda. So I'm not criticizing your bill. I like transparency. But we're just nibbling around the edges here. And with respect, Mr. Scott, your definition of a fiduciary is wrong. Fiduciary isn't somebody that controls the decision. You know that, and I know that. A fiduciary is somebody who has a legal obligation to give his client the best advice and to do what's best for his client. It doesn't replace agent with principal or vice versa. You know that, and I know that. Well, you need to talk to your lawyers. I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Let me go back to Professor Sood. Tell me two things you would do tomorrow to fix PBMs and result in lower prices for consumers.
So I think the two things I would do is...
Very specific.
Yes. I would implement price transparency so that everyone knows what they're paying. And
Okay, price transparency just tells us who's screwing whom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fiduciary responsibility says, if you're getting screwed, I can take you to court. So I would do those two things. And those are, I think, better than banning particular practices, because otherwise it's whack-a-mole. You ban spread pricing and something else will show up a year from now.
I got 29 seconds. Do you have any other suggestions? I appreciate your
So
straight talk.
the other thing we can do is, what I recommended is pass-through of rebates to patients. So suppose a drug...
Say that again?
So pass-through of rebates to patients. So for example, the list price of a drug is $50,000. But the rebate on the drug is $40,000. So when a patient is paying cost sharing, suppose 10%, they should be paying on the post rebate price. So which is the $50,000 less the $40,000 rebate. Right now, what's happening is patients are paying cost sharing on the $50,000. So this would immediately lower patient out-of-pocket costs. So as Dr. Kircher said, for the cancer patients,
So you're saying the number after us, the PBMs are jacking up, are encouraging manufacturers to jack up the list price so they can jack up their rebates.
and that,
Is that right?
yes.
That's
and,
illegal.
And the jacked
That's
up,
illegal.
yes.
I'm
I don't know
done.
about that, but it,
I do.
Okay.
It's illegal as hell.
yeah.